Hey, y'all, happy Tuesday. Listen, we got to make history together. Let me fix my light in there. I think that's a little bit better. We got to make history together. Happy Tuesday. So we're swapping out trending topics because the great debate, the presidential debate, is going on tonight. We're going to see. Hopefully they won't shut me down, okay? We're going to see if I could share the screen and we watch the debate together. And when they take a break and talk, we will take a break and talk. All I ask is that let everybody have their opinion. People have the right to vote for who they want to vote for. Be mindful of your words. Don't come at anybody's neck. You understand? You know, we all got rights here. If you like one person over the other, that's your business. Okay? I think this is historic. This is historic. Because let me tell you what they also said. They also said, see, when you play dirty, you never win. They also said that Trump was forcing, so to speak, this early debate that he had with Biden. And they said, if it wasn't for that early debate that he had with Biden, if they had their first debate now when they were scheduled to have it, it would have been way too late for Biden to drop out. So Trump trumped himself, so to speak, right? He wanted to show the people he could slaughter him, and that's what he showed them. And as a result, you know, the Democratic Party, they said, no, we gotta do something real quick. And they got Biden out of there. And now Kamala is a candidate. Now they do have rules, you know, with this debate here, where they're going to mute mics and all of that stuff. I'm going to bring Julius up and he's going to talk about the rules and everything. And as it gets closer to 9 o'clock, I'm going to share screen. We're going to, you know, show the debate live, and we're going to see how it goes. Now, my sister does not live in Philly, but she works in Philly. And she said Philly was on lockdown today. Lockdown. You couldn't move left, right, or whatever the case may be. They're not playing. So security is high out there in Philly because they don't want any mishaps. And guess what? Neither do I. I'm praying over both the candidates because we don't need anything to happen. We need it to be peaceful. We need it to be a debate. We needed to hear exactly what each candidate has to say. And they're not going to be able to come at each other, because there was one debate with Biden and Trump. And I think they said that Trump interrupted Biden about 77 times. That's just ridiculous. That's just ridiculous. So let me go ahead and bring Julius in the building. He's going to talk to us about, you know, the rules. And then I'm going to bring the rest of the panel in the building. Hey, Julius.
Hey, boo. Okay, so the rules. It's 15 of them. This list is long. So the first rule is this. The debate will be 90 minutes with 2 commercial breaks. The 2 seated moderators will only be the people asking questions. A coin flip was held virtually on the 3rd. And To determine placement in order of closing statements, Trump won the coin toss and chose to select the order of statements. The former president will offer the last closing statement, and Vice President Harris selected the right podium position on screen, stage right, stage left, excuse me. The next rule: candidates will be introduced by the moderators. The next rule: the candidates enter upon introduction from opposite sides of the stage. The incumbent party will be introduced first. Given that the Democrats are the incumbent party, they will go first. The next rule: no opening statements. Closing statements will be 2 minutes per candidate. Candidates will stand behind podiums for the duration of the debate. Props or pre-written notes are not allowed. So that means they cannot have any kind of props or any kind of pre-written notions or any of that. Next rule: no topics or questions will be shared in advance with the candidates. So anything you have heard, it has not come from the moderators. It's just public speculation. Next rule: candidates will be given a pen, a pad of paper, and a bottle of water. So no honey chamomile tea. It's an ordinary bottle of water. Dang, not the tea. Next rule: candidates will have 2 minute answers to questions, 2 minutes, 2 minute rebuttals, and 1 extra minute for follow-up clarifications or responses. Next rule: candidates' microphones will be live only for the candidate whose turn it is to speak and muted when the time belongs to the other candidate. Next rule: candidates will not be permitted to ask questions of each other. Next rule: campaign staff may not interact with candidates during commercial breaks. Next rule: moderators will seek to enforce timing agreements and ensure a civilized discussion. Next rule: there will be no live studio audience, and also for our chat, any inappropriate or disrespectful language or verbiage during tonight's debate, I don't care what side you are on. I want to make that especially clear. I do not care. Your comment will either be muted or deleted. And if you keep up, me and the other mods will recommend to Diva for a possible ban if you do not respect the rules. You work with us, we work with you. But if you do not, there's repercussions. We're not playing.
Woo-wee. Well, thank you, Julius, who's a new mod in the scene, and he's on moderator tonight for this debate. And he just told you the rules. I'm just going to go around as we wait. We got a few minutes here before the debate actually starts. I want to go around to...
Why ain't your camera on unless you just want to know? I'm sorry, Diva.
I want to go around to the panelists and, just say who you think, we just talking freely, who you think is going to probably win this debate tonight. Julius, who are you betting on?
Madam President-to-be Kamala Harris.
Thank you, Julius. Katrina, who you think gonna win this debate tonight?
I think it's gonna be Miss Vice President Kamala Harris. Hopefully, she can keep me on the game.
Okay, Wayne, your thoughts?
Well, I'm going with VP Harris. I mean, I would be just devastated. Y'all might have to come to Florida if it goes any kind of different way.
Not resuscitate you.
Lord, I was on the line today. You talking about trolling? This black guy was on there for Trump. Oh my God, all the stuff he was saying. I told him, I said, I won't say what I said, but it was pretty much on the lines of you just regurgitated what he said. That's all he was saying, you know. By the time I finished calling him a coon and everything else I could think of that was legal on TikTok, because he kept running his mouth, you know. So that's why I hope she wins. I hope if I had money, I would put it on her, because the alternative is devastating. I can't even think of if. I only want to say if. So that's it.
Thank you, Felicia. Your thoughts?
Well, thank you, Diva. Greetings, everybody, especially those folks in the chat. Let us, first of all, give God, Father in heaven, so much grace and thanks that we are still here, we are present, and we can participate and listen and hear what the candidates are going to share with us. And I just ask that it be a peaceful, kind of respectful gathering. Realistically, I think either the former president's going to leave or he going to get thrown down by Secret Service. That's what I think. Okay, I'm done.
Not leave the building or get put out by Secret Service. Leo, your thoughts?
Well, after listening to Wayne, I got my Swiffer sweeper in hand just in case things go the other way, and I got to go down there to Florida and sweep Wayne up out the carpet because he done fell apart. Because Kamala Harris been weird. So I pretty much feel like it's gonna be a wash. I don't think he gonna cut up, and I don't think Kamala is gonna come out swinging like that. I can't put my money on either person. It like we said, it's historic, and I'm waiting to see what's gonna happen.
Yeah. Leo, when he got off the plane, I saw him just before he got off the plane. He had some of the worst. Laura Loomer. They said he had his prep team. It was Laura Loomer, Matt Gaetz, one of his sons, Chelsea Gabber, somebody, and it was somebody else. So he got all them fools that go with the same stuff he go with. So I don't know, if he's going to try. I think he's just going to go gutter low.
He may if he go gutter low.
He's not going. Leo, I don't think he's going to be able to resist
it.
That's his safe place. That's his safe place. When he don't know crap, he goes gutter low and start calling names and really just, that's his style though.
But that's why they muting their microphones, because they know that she can get him to slip up and he gonna say the wrong thing. That's why they having their microphones muted. Ain't nobody no fool.
Well, you know what? He might come straight out and just tell her how dumb and stupid she is, because he been saying that on rinse and repeat and rewind on that.
Low IQ.
It's like he can't help it.
He can't debate. She can't debate. Yeah.
So he might call her out her name, start calling her stupid. Ooh, that'll be ugly.
Ugly. But you know what? It's going to be interesting how he handles this. Let me see. Well, let me see what Raheem said. Well, Kamala is being prepped by Clinton's former team, and that was a bust last time. So, ooh.
Clinton's former team? I thought it was Barack Obama's former team.
I don't know.
Because Clinton people in their 80s.
No, it wasn't Clinton's former team. She has her own team. She did talk to Joe and Hillary. I did see articles about that, but they have been prepping her in the way that how she wanted to go. It wasn't
in their 70s and their 80s. I hope she ain't got the Clinton team. That was in the 90s. Clinton is 78.
No.
The Clinton team ain't ready for that.
Child, let's see. I'm trying to see. I'm trying to see who's okay. Wait, I think I might have found something. Hold on. Let's see if we can do this. We got a little bit of time on who is prepping them. I know they said she's been doing a lot of mock debates, so she's definitely taking this thing very serious. Let's block that for a minute.
Well, if she ain't got somebody on hand that's gonna look at her in her face and cuss her out, then what the facts that she know might not be important. It's how she handles being demeaned. It's gonna be the part that's gonna be important.
Well, that's one of the rules, though, right? He's not going to be able to like respond to her and do that. So here's who's prepping Donald Trump and Kamala Harris for debate. So both Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump are preparing for their debate on Tuesday. Each campaign has a different team helping them to do it. The ABC debate on Saturday, on September 10th, will be the first presidential debate since President Joe Biden went head-to-head with Trump in June. Since then, a lot has changed, not least the entire Democratic ticket, with many people attributing Biden's eventful decision to drop out of the 2024 race to his poor performance in June's debate. Both campaigns are taking the next one seriously. How each candidate is approaching it in a different way. Trump's campaign has so far tried to project confidence, saying that there is not a lot to do in order to prepare their candidate for a good showing. Meanwhile, Harris' team is looking to capitalize on the new momentum. Her entry to the top of the ticket brought the campaign, despite polls indicating that her honeymoon is over. So Kamala Harris' debate prep team is Karen Dunn. Karen Dunn is a lawyer who previously helped Harris prepare for her debates with the then Vice President Mike Pence during the 2020 election cycle. A veteran trial lawyer, Dunn has helped other Democratic nominees, Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, in their preparations. So this Karen is connected to both Obama and Hillary Clinton. Let's see. Who else is it? How do you say that? Rohini? That's another person helping her as a former deputy assistant to president and as Harris' domestic policy advisor. Rohini has a strong grasp on the campaign's policy positions and how to best deliver them. Alongside Dunn, she is co-leading the debate prep efforts, according to Politico. And then what is that? Minya Moore. Moore is one of Harris' longtime allies and has a significant sway with the Democratic Party. She was chair of the Democratic National Convention, which saw Harris confirmed as the party's candidate this year, and has been advising the vice president on strategy since Harris was a California senator. So she seemed like she got some good people behind her. So also on her team is Brian Nelson, the campaign's domestic policy advisor, and Cedric Richmond, the campaign co-chair. Now, Donald Trump's debate team is Matt Gaetz. As one of Trump's most vocal supporters, both with Congress and without, Gaetz has reportedly been firing practice questions at the Republican nominee, ensuring Trump is ready to answer well on tricky issues, including his indictments, abortion stances, and hush money payments. Hold on one second. Let me just let Savannah in the building.
Good evening, everyone.
Hey, what is this?
Good evening.
Hey, Savannah.
So he has this other person, Tulsi, the former Democratic Congresswoman for Hawaii, reached new levels of her prominence at the clips of her exchange with Harris at a debate during the Democratic primaries ahead of the 2020 election, went viral, with the Trump campaign looking to recreate a similar moment. Gabbard has been advising the former president informally. He has Jason. Oh, she is. He has Jason Miller. Miller is one of Trump campaign's most senior advisors and has put a lot of effort into framing of Harris heading into the debate. He has kept Trump on message with attacks leading up to the debate. He also has a Stephen Miller, one of the campaign's top policy advisors, Vince Haley and Ross Worthington, Trump's favorite speech writers. So, you know, they both have been prepping. And I know they said they was really working a lot. Oh, that's the secret weapon you're saying. You know, they have both been working a lot to.
Chelsea ain't nobody.
Chelsea ain't no one. I mean,
She ain't nobody.
She has no agenda. She's just bitter and mean because she's not taken seriously in her party.
That's right. That's right.
They both need to talk about the economy. That's for sure.
Absolutely. Agree.
Waiting
And
for
tariffs won't fix this thing alone. I need actual numbers, receipts, short-term goals, and long-term goals. Because tariffs ain't it. We had those before, and that's why the economy's in shambles now.
I will pull it up like at 8:55, y'all, so we can hear some opening stuff and speak. I will say this is definitely historic. This is history in the making. You know, it's going to be interesting to watch and see. Go ahead, Leo. You want to say something?
No, darling, I'm trying to get myself situated. Let me put myself on mute.
Yeah, no problem. I was choking over here. Get yourself situated, everybody. Get your water, get your tea, get your coffee. We about to get into this and see this debate. Anybody else? Anybody want to say anything before I actually pull up the debate here? Let me see what they got going on. It's exciting. I think it's going to be a
It
good
seems
day.
like they're going to be doing like 10 minutes of talking.
They talked about also the colors. You know what? We'll go into it a little bit now. Hold on. Let me share screen.
Stage at this moment. What's it like?
Well, it's stressful, but it's also that time you just say, this is go time. You get in your zone. I'm sure the nominees, the candidates right now are thinking the same thing. They've studied. They're going to go out, open the curtain.
All right, well, then let's bring somebody in who has been there both debating Donald Trump and helping him prepare for general election debates, the former governor of New Jersey, Chris Christie. So Chris, you've helped prepare Trump for this moment several times.
I agree.
It does. Bring us into that room right now. What's going on with
He
Donald
looks
Trump?
sleepy.
Well, look, at this point, he's in the worst hour of his prep, because you just have to sit there and wait for the time to come, and they make you get there early. And so he is there. He's not really being spoken to. A little small talk here and there, but nobody's trying to give him any kind of clues.
So let me ask you the question. Let me ask you the question I tried to ask Tom Cotton. He didn't exactly give me an answer, but you will. Which Trump is going to show up tonight? You know what I mean by that. Which Trump?
I think at the beginning of the debate, the Trump who will show up will be the calmer Donald Trump. He knows inherently after the 2020 first debate against Joe Biden that the other Donald Trump is not the one that's a winning formula. The question's going to be, will he be able to continue to maintain that approach through questioning by David and Lindsay and through any comments that Vice President Harris makes in his direction? And that'll be the key to how he performs tonight.
And you and I were talking, you helped prepare him for those 2016 debates against Hillary Clinton. He told you that he had respect for Hillary Clinton, that Hillary Clinton was smart as you were preparing. What about Kamala Harris? We hear not the same.
Well, certainly he's not saying that publicly in any way. And I can tell you that in 2016, he would regularly say during the many debate prep sessions that we had with him that Hillary Clinton was smart, that she was a good debater, that she was not to be taken lightly. And I don't think there was ever a moment in 2016 where he took her lightly. I do think he took Joe Biden lightly in 2020. And clearly during the prep sessions that I had with him, it was very, very difficult to get him to focus on what Joe Biden might or might not do in that first debate. And I think his performance in part reflected that. So the question's going to be, is what he's saying publicly what he really believes? We know that often with Donald Trump, that's performance. But I will tell you that in his 2016 prep, he was serious about getting ready for Hillary Clinton. In his 2020 debate prep, he was completely unserious about getting ready for Joe Biden. I think performances in both those debates reflected that approach.
All right, Chris Christie, you'll be watching with us. Martha?
And we have about 6 minutes left before the debate. So let's bring in Donna Brazil, formerly of the DNC, and Reince Priebus, the RNC. Welcome to both of you. And Donna, let's start with you. You have said that Kamala Harris has to own the future, but she also has to own the past. So how does she do this?
It's quite easy. Because I do believe that in talking about the future, you draw from your past. You draw from your past experiences. She draws from how she was raised, the values that was instilled in her as a young lady. Look, she is steady on her feet, still in her resolve. And tonight she should talk to the American people, sit in their living rooms, go to their kitchen table and say, look, I have some ideas that I want to share with you. There's so much that we have done together over the last 4 years, but here's what I think we can do together over the next 4 years. Be positive in her approach and really remind the American people that we don't want to go back to the chaos and the confusion, the disaster that made, of course, the American people go out in droves in 2020 to fire the former president. Say, I want to be a president that lead all Americans. I want to keep us strong and secure, and here's the plan that I want to share with you tonight.
And Donna, I of course meant Biden. She has to own up to the Biden administration's any mistakes they made too, and Donald Trump is going to go after her on that.
You know, Martha, they made mistakes. Donald Trump and Mr. Pence made mistakes. But you know what? If we focus on our mistakes, we won't focus on all of the good things that we could do together as Americans. I do believe there's something to say about people who are now able to work. The people who can buy their insulin without paying over $1,000, $35. There's so much good that she can talk about from the visits that she's made to small towns across this country, large cities across the country. Bring us together. The American people want to be led into the future, not dragged back to another era.
And Reince, I want your thoughts on, you've also prepped Donald Trump for debates back in 2016, I believe. What Donald Trump do you think we'll see tonight? Can he be disciplined about talking about policies and what kind of president he will be?
Well, he certainly can be. I mean, the reality is Donald Trump doesn't have a lot to lose tonight. I mean, his support has always been almost unmovable. So the second piece is the honeymoon, I think, is over for Kamala Harris. And you all kind of touched on it with Donna. Kamala Harris has to answer for the state of the economy that she took a role in the Biden administration, the border, you know, her past positions on decriminalizing the border, decriminalizing certain drugs, what her role was in Afghanistan. So really, the spotlight is on Kamala Harris tonight because she played a role in the Biden administration. She wants to act like she's not an incumbent. So this is where the focus is going to be. And she's got a lot to answer for tonight. And I think that's where Donald Trump's focus will be and where it actually should be tonight.
Well, one of the things he wants to do is have female voters look at him. How does he attract female voters after saying things about Kamala Harris? And we'll see how he pronounces that tonight. Things he said about Kamala Harris, that she's dumb as a rock. That's not really going to attract female voters, is it?
Yeah, no, it won't. But I also think that just like he did in the first debate against Joe Biden, I think the formula here is to constantly tie Kamala Harris to the Biden administration, which is where Trump is winning against her on the economy, inflation, and all these other problems that we're having, and then sit back and let her talk. Let her explain herself, her past positions, current positions. How does she feel about how Biden has done on the economy? How does she feel about the border? Well, then turn it over and let her talk.
Okay, thanks so much for joining us tonight, Donna and Reince. We're all staying tuned. Can't wait.
And I have to say, as we are just a couple of less than 2 minutes away, this such an extraordinary moment, and especially, Rachel, when you consider that these two people that have been the center of our lives for the last 2 months have never met each other.
Have never even met each other. And Harris said, if you got something to say it to my face. The question tonight, does Donald Trump actually go there? He's questioned her racial identity. He's questioned her intelligence as well, or does he stick to the issues?
Look, this is the largest audience they're likely going to have in this race. It will be interesting to see if Harris can make clear the stark choice before voters. And where does she decide to land her punches? She can punch hard. Can she do that while rising above the needling coming her way? But first and foremost, are we going to see a handshake when the two of them meet for the first time?
We didn't back in 2016 when I did that debate. We'll stand by to see that tonight. But the first time, side to side, together.
And I have my doubts that we're going to see that handshake, but what we are going to see is a spirited debate and perhaps the most consequential general election debate we have ever seen, because almost certainly going to be the last one. So with the stakes so high, the presidential debate just moments away, we have the entire news division keeping an eye on everything. We are going to be fact-checking on our live blog. It's all going to be happening right here. The debate now just 10 seconds away, and we will be back with our post-game show as soon as it's over. We are going to toss it right now to David Muir and Lindsay Day.
Tonight, the high-stakes showdown here in Philadelphia between Vice President Kamala Harris and former President Donald Trump. Their first face-to-face meeting in this presidential election, their first face-to-face meeting ever.
A historic race for president upended just weeks ago. President Biden withdrawing after his last debate. Donald Trump now up against a new opponent.
The candidates separated by the smallest of margins, essentially tied in the polls nationally and in the key battlegrounds, including right here in Pennsylvania, all still very much in play. The ABC News presidential debate starts right now.
This is an ABC News special, the most consequential moment of this campaign. Kamala Harris.
Together, we will chart a new way forward.
Donald Trump.
We will soon be a great nation again.
Face to face. Historic. The ABC News presidential debate.
And the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support to raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest child tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children. My passion, one of them, is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses. My plan is to give a $50,000 tax deduction to startup small businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of America's economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation has, which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that she and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all, in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back, and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy. And the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create a lot of good, solid money for our country. And just to finish off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan. And it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just, oh, we'll try and lower taxes. She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out here, on foreign imports across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response. And you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's presidency, he ended up selling American chips to China to help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out, when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point. when we know that she was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID?
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will be the end of our country. She's a Marxist. Everybody knows she's a Marxist. Her father's a Marxist professor in economics, and he taught her well. But when you look at what she's done to our country, and when you look at these millions and millions of people that are pouring into our country monthly, where it's, I believe, 21 million people, not the 15 that people say, and I think it's a lot higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York.
All it took was one
pouring
bait
in.
and switch.
And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals. And that's bad for our economy, too. You know, you mentioned before, we'll talk about immigration later. Well, bad immigration is the worst thing that can happen to our economy. They have, and she has, destroyed our country with policy that's insane. Almost policy that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
I want to turn to the issue of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is, they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says
Not one
execution
politician has
after
said-
birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born is okay. And that's not okay with me. Hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in doing it. It took courage to do it. And the Supreme Court had great courage in doing it. And I give tremendous credit to those 6 justices.
There is no state in this country where it is legal to kill a baby after it's born. Madam Vice President, I want to get your response to President Trump.
Well, as I said, you're going to hear a bunch of lies, and that's not actually a surprising fact. Let's understand how we got here. Donald Trump hand-selected 3 members of the United States Supreme Court with the intention that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade. And they did exactly as he intended. And now in over 20 states, there are Trump abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life. Trump abortion bans that make no exception even for rape and incest, which understand what that means. A survivor of a crime of violation to their body does not have the right to make a decision about what happens to their body next. That is immoral. And one does not have to abandon their faith or deeply held beliefs to agree. The government, and Donald Trump certainly, should not be telling a woman what to do with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid they might go to jail, and she's bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that. A 12 or 13-year-old survivor of incest being forced to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, when Congress passes a bill to put back in place the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025, there would be a national abortion, a monitor that would be monitoring your pregnancies, your miscarriages. I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Thank you, Vice President Harris.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well,
to
I
your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of? When they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. And he went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea and how unfair that would have been. Part of the reason they lost to the millions and millions of people that had to pay off their student loans. They didn't get it for free, but they were saying it's the same way that they talked about that they talk about abortion.
But if I could just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
Vice President Harris, I want to give you your time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of America. And understand what has been happening under Donald Trump's abortion bans. Couples who pray and dream of having a family are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working one or two jobs who can barely afford childcare as it is have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body, and that is why in every state where this issue has been on the ballot, in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF, I have been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer
That's
the
problem.
question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question. Would you veto?
you could do abortions in the 7th month, the 8th month, the 9th
That's
month,
not true.
and probably after birth. Just look at the governor, former governor of Virginia. The governor of Virginia said, we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're going to turn now to immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by President Biden with getting to the root causes of migration from Central America. We know that illegal border crossings reached a record high in the Biden administration. This past June, President Biden imposed tough new asylum restrictions. We know the numbers since then have dropped significantly. But my question to you tonight is, why did the administration wait until 6 months before the election to act? And would you have done anything differently from President Biden on this?
So I'm the only person on this stage who has prosecuted transnational criminal organizations for the trafficking of guns, drugs, and human beings. And let me say that the United States Congress, including some of the most conservative members of the United States Senate, came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country. That bill would have put more resources to allow us to prosecute transnational criminal organizations for trafficking in guns, drugs, and human beings. But you know what happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress, and said, kill the bill. And you know why? Because he'd prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And understand, this comes at a time where the people of our country actually need a leader who engages in solutions, who actually addresses the problems at hand. But what we have in the former president is someone who would prefer to run on a problem instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's going to talk about immigration a lot tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice is that people start leaving his rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about your needs, your dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I will.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, on that point, I want to get your response.
Well, I would like to respond.
Let me just ask, though, why did you try to kill that bill, and successfully so? That would have put thousands of additional agents and officers on the border.
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go. And the people that do go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there, and then showing them in a different light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my rallies. We have the biggest rallies, the most incredible rallies in the history of politics. That's because people want to take their country back. Our country is being lost. We're a failing nation. And it happened
He
3.5
bait,
years
and she
ago.
grinning.
And what's going on here, you're going to end up in World War III, just to go into another subject. What they have done to our country by allowing these millions and millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or Springfield. A lot of towns don't want to talk about it because they're so embarrassed by it. In Springfield, they're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the pets of the people that live there. And this is what's happening in
talk
our
about his
country.
friend, that
And it's a
JFK
shame.
man.
As far as rallies are concerned, as far as the reason they go is they like what I say. They want to bring our country back. They want to make America great again. It's a very simple phrase, make America great again. She's destroying this country. And if she becomes president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this,
seen people on television.
let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
but
television.
The people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says
Yes,
there's no evidence of that. Vice President
Yes.
Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme. This is, I think, one of the reasons why in this election, I actually have the endorsement of 200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and John McCain, including the endorsement of former Vice President Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz Cheney. And if you want to really know the inside track on who the former president is, if he didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a four-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the United States. His former national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation, the republic, would never survive another Trump term. And when we listen to this kind of rhetoric, when the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
President Trump, I'll give you a quick minute to respond here.
Thank you, because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad job. I fired them. They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan. Like a guy like Esper, he was no good. I fired him, so he writes a book. Another one writes a book, because with me they can write books. With nobody else can they? But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation. They didn't fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you. But just to finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S. military.
Police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher. Take us through this. What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah, it is much higher because of them. They allowed criminals, many, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know why? Because they've taken their criminals off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It was a fraud, just like their number of 818,000 jobs that they
And let's be clear where each person stands on the issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York, every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people
Vice President
to stop
Harris,
him.
thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized.
for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions changed?
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increase by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather. And my focus then on protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance of standing up for those who are most vulnerable. My work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on longstanding work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down and name calling. The true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump, your
Well,
response?
first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all that stuff up very wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably 14 or 15 different policies. Like, she was big on defund the police. In Minnesota, she went out, wait a minute, I'm talking now, if you don't mind, please. Does that sound familiar?
Oh,
She went out in Minnesota and wanted to let criminals that killed people, that burned down Minneapolis, she went out and raised money to get them out of jail. She did things that nobody would ever think of. Now she wants to do transgender operations on illegal aliens that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this.
Now he
She
going
wants
too
to
far. Now that's
confiscate
too
your
much.
guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania
dumber than
will end
bricks.
on day one. Just to finish, one thing so important in my opinion. So I got the oil business going like nobody has ever done before. When they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the
Harpo, what
prices
you
were
talking
going
about?
up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back to Trump. But if she won the election, the day after that election, they'll go back to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400,
President
500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank you.
Lindsay, thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy, and the role of a president in a moment of crisis. Mr. President, on January 6th, you told your supporters to march to the Capitol. You said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol that day, the officers coming under attack. Aides in the West Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. Peacefully and patriotically. And nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border. In fact, she said at the beginning, oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because she knows what a bad job they've done. What about those people? When are they going to be prosecuted? When are these people from countries all over the world, not just South America, they're coming in from all over the world, David, all over the world. And crime rates are down all over the world because of it.
But let me just
when
ask
are those, David, when are those people going to be prosecuted? When are the people that burned down Minneapolis going to be prosecuted? Or in Seattle? They went into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle. When are those people going to be prosecuted?
But let me just ask
you. You might ask her that question.
You were the president. You were watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day? Yes or no?
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, you know, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their jobs. I wasn't responsible for security. Nancy Pelosi was responsible. She didn't do her job.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond here.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th.
Uh-oh.
I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob.
Talk about it.
To attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason. But this is not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville, where there was a mob of people carrying tiki torches, spewing anti-Semitic hate. And what did the president then at the time say? There were fine people on each side. Let's remember that when it came to the Proud Boys, a militia, the president said, the former president said, stand back and stand by. So for everyone watching who remembers what January 6th was, I say, we don't have to go back. Let's not go back. We're not going back. It's time to turn the page. And if that was a bridge too far for you, well, there is a place in our campaign for you to stand for country, to stand for our democracy, to stand for rule of law, and to end the chaos, and to end the approach that is about attacking the foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And be clear on that point. Donald Trump, the candidate, has said in this election there will be a bloodbath if this and the outcome of this election is not to his liking, let's turn the page on this. Let's not go back. Let's chart a course for the future and not go backwards to the past.
Let me just follow up here.
It was a different term, and it was a term that related to energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was. Also, on Charlottesville, that story has been, as you would say, debunked. Laura Ingraham, Sean Hannity, Jesse, all of these people, they covered it. If they go an extra sentence, they will
He's
see
the
it
one
was
that made the
perfect.
claim
It
there
was
was
debunked
blame
in
on
almost
both sides.
every newspaper, but they still
Good
bring
job
it up,
trying
just
to
like they
sidetrack
bring
that.
2025 up.
Remember.
They bring all of this stuff up. I ask you this, you talk about the Capitol. Why are we allowing these millions of people to come through on the southern border? How come she's not doing anything? And I'll tell you what I would do, and I would be very proud to do it. I would say we would both leave this debate right now. I'd like to see her go down to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down to Washington, D.C. and let her sign a bill to close up the border because they have the right to do it. They don't need bills. They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed. You'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the afternoon. You'll say, come on down to the office. Let's sign a bill. If he signs a bill that the border is closed, all he has to do is say it to the Border Patrol, who are phenomenal. If they do that, the border is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
people are killing many people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus, truth in these times that we're living in. Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say that.
sarcastically.
But
You know
those-
that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have sent it back to the legislatures for approval. I got almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls, and we have to have it. We have to have borders, and we have to have good elections. Our elections are bad. And a lot of these illegal immigrants coming in, they're trying to get them to vote. They can't even speak English. They don't even know what country they're in practically. And these people are trying to get them to vote. And that's why they're allowing them to come into our country.
I did watch all of these pieces of video. I didn't detect the sarcasm, lost by a whisker. We didn't quite make it. And we should just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No judge
Republican,
looked at it.
and said
They
there was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing, a technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special on it. I'll show you Georgia, and I'll show you Wisconsin, and I'll show you Pennsylvania, and I'll show you. We have so many facts and statistics, but you know what? That doesn't matter because we have to solve the problem that we have right now. That's old news. And the problem that we have right now is we have a nation in decline, and they have put it into decline. We have a nation that is dying, David.
Mr. President, thank you. Vice President Harris, you heard the president there tonight. He said he didn't say that he lost by a whisker. So he still believes he did not lose the election that was won by President Biden and yourself. But I do want to ask you about something that's come up in the last couple of days. This was a post from President Trump about this upcoming election just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people who cheated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials, he says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include long-term prison sentences. One of your campaign's top lawyers responded saying, we won't let Donald Trump intimidate us. We won't let him suppress the vote. Is that what you believe he's trying to do here?
Donald Trump was fired by 81 million people.
Oh.
So let's be clear about that. And clearly he is having a very difficult time processing that. But we cannot afford to have a president of the United States who attempts, as he did in the past, to upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States, and world leaders are laughing at Donald Trump. I have talked with military leaders, some of whom worked with you, and they say you're a disgrace.
Oh my God.
And when you then talk in this way
Oh
in a
my God.
presidential debate and deny what over and over again are court cases you have lost because you did in fact lose that election, it leads
He
one
giving
to
him any
believe
is.
that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or the ability to not be confused about fact. That's deeply troubling, and the American people deserve better.
I'll give you 1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men, they call him a strong man. He's a tough person, smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the whole world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look at what's going on with North Korea, by the way. He said Russia was afraid of him. I ended the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, and Biden put it back on day one, but he ended the XL pipeline. The XL pipeline in our country, he ended that. But he let the Russians build a pipeline going all over Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest pipeline in the world. Look, Viktor Orban said it. He said the most respected, most feared person is Donald Trump. We had no problems when Trump was president. But when this weak, pathetic man that you saw at a debate just a few months ago, that if he weren't in that debate, he'd be running instead of her. She got no votes. He got 14 million votes. What you did, you talk about a threat to democracy. He got 14 million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out. She got 0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first one to leave because she failed. And now she's running. I don't understand it, but I'm okay with it because
your time is
I
up.
think we're going to do very well.
We've got a lot more to get to.
Turning now to the Israel-Hamas war and the hostages who are still being held, Americans among them. Vice President Harris, in December, you said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last week, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said there's not a deal in the making. President Biden has not been able to break through the stalemate. How would you do it?
Well, let's understand how we got here. On October 7, Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis. Many of them young people who were simply attending a concert. Women were horribly raped. And so absolutely, I said then, I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters, because it is also true, far too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately, and the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out. And so we will continue to work around the clock on that. Work around the clock, also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always, I will always give Israel the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
President Trump, how would you negotiate with Netanyahu and also Hamas in order to get the hostages out and prevent the killing of more innocent civilians in Gaza?
If I were president, it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If she's president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation, and now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis, and yet
with Kim Jong-un, and it is absolutely well known that these dictators and autocrats are rooting for you to be president again because they're so clear they can manipulate you with flattery and favors. And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and respecting in highest regard our military.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
they're the ones, and she's the one that caused it, that's weak on national security by allowing every nation last month for the year, 168 different countries sending people into our country. Their crime rates are way down. Putin endorsed her last week, said, I hope she wins. And I think he meant it because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me. The leaders of other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe?
Sarcastic.
Because they're weak and they're ineffective. And Biden, by the way,
President
gets paid
Trump,
a lot of money.
Thank you. We have a lot of issues to get to.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National Constitution Center right here in Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Woo, child!
The ABC News presidential debate will continue after
Hit the
this.
like button, people.
Hit the like
Hit the
button.
like
This
button,
is
y'all.
stinking
Okay,
hot.
we can
Okay,
talk.
I'm gonna stop sharing it. Hold on. Yay! I'm gonna y'all can go ahead and let's talk about this. I'll keep it background so I know when it comes back on. Good googly my. Woo! So I'll just ask first, who you think is winning so far, Julius?
Kamala.
Katrina. I don't know, Katrina's there. Wayne. You there, Wayne?
You already in the carpet, Wayne?
All right. Felicia, your thoughts?
Oh, I think they're both doing well. I think they're both coming across as the people who they are, what they know,
Mhm.
what their ideas are, where we were in the past, where we're going forward. I think they're both doing a great job in showing us what is the
She has
difference.
given plenty of policy.
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's beautiful. I love it.
Yeah, they are. I do feel like that, and Trump interrupt Candy, and he's getting to say a little bit more. But when she says something, it's powerful. She like boom, boom, boom. Leo, your thoughts?
Yeah, Diva. I think she kicking him in the teeth. She punching him in the mouth with her words. But Donald Trump is hanging in there.
He is.
My prediction that it's gonna be flush is still holding right now. Right now, it's still holding. 35 minutes. No, an hour in, it's still holding right now.
Yeah, yeah.
So
But she
I
she
don't know
like
how
this. She
it's
coming
gonna
like
go.
this. She coming like this though.
Yeah,
Woo! She
it's
coming like
still
that.
kind of holding. He losing it a little bit. He losing
He,
it because she's baiting him slowly,
mm-hmm.
and I like it, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm impressed by it.
Yeah.
It's good. It's good. It's good.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Savannah, your thoughts?
Absolutely agree. This is a great debate, and they are both showing exactly who they are. I am loving that she is dropping breadcrumbs into the woods, and he is following her, and she is eating him up because we have not heard any policy from him whatsoever, and he hasn't answered not one question. It keeps going back to immigration. I'm writing down notes as he's talking and as she's talking. But there is absolutely no facts in most of what he's saying. I have other channels on behind me as well, looking even Fox to see what they're saying, and they're all saying that he needs to reel it in a little bit.
Yeah.
So he should.
No, I'm listening to you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Woo, child. Not the love letters though. Tony M, your thoughts?
Diva, clearly Kamala Harris is winning on this one. Trump, everything with Trump is more like a Jerry Springer show. You know, it's ridiculous. It's not even presidential. So let's just look at the facts. Stay focused on substance that you see from Harris versus what you're not getting from Trump. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, yeah. Emmanuel, your thoughts?
Listen, clearly all of the preparation that Kamala Harris has been having the past days have really paid off. She's
Mhm.
coming across amazing. I was not expecting this. I think her team did a great job by kind of putting her as the underdog, so our expectations were kind of low. She is absolutely dominating this. The way she talks about every talking point, pay attention, y'all, because she says it as if she were telling a story, which is exactly what prosecutors do. He is having a hard time. He looks like he is unraveling. He refuses to look at her. She's clearly baiting him. Now they're both not answering a lot of questions, and they're both lying a lot. So let's see what's happened this second half.
Yeah, yeah. I will agree with you on this, Emmanuel. Both of them are kind of with some of the questions, like not really,
Yeah.
like
Mhm.
not really answering. But Wayne, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, I couldn't find the mic. I know how Leo feels. No, who is it? But they can't find the mic. But anyway, I think she's doing great. And as long as Trump gets up there and keep lying, okay, because he's right on the edge of breaking. It's like he want to break out the cage and do
Oh,
all
wait,
the stuff.
we gotta come back. We gotta come back. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Hold on.
Interest to do so, arguing that if Putin wins, he may be emboldened to move even further into other countries. You have said you would solve this war in 2020. You said so just before the break tonight. How exactly would you do that? And I want to ask you, Ukraine to win this war?
I want the war to stop. I want to save lives that are being uselessly, people being killed by the millions. It's the millions. It's so much worse than the numbers that you're getting, which are fake numbers. Look, we're in for 250 billion or more because they don't ask Europe, which is a much bigger beneficiary to getting this thing done than we are. They're in for $150 billion less because Biden and you don't have the courage to ask Europe like I did with NATO. They paid billions and billions, hundreds of billions of dollars when I said, either you pay up or we're not going to protect you anymore. So that's maybe one of the reasons they don't like me as much as they like weak people. But you take a look at what's happening. We're in for 250 to 275 billion. They're into 100 to 150. They should be forced to equalize. With that being said, I want to get the war settled. I know Zelensky very well, and I know Putin very well. I have a good relationship, and they respect your president, okay? They respect me. They don't respect Biden. How would you respect him? Why? For what reason? He hasn't even made a phone call in 2 years to Putin, hasn't spoken to anybody. They don't even try and get it. That is a war that's dying to be settled. I will get it settled before I even become president. If I win, when I'm president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up. Just to clarify in the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war, yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives from being destroyed.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your thoughts on support for Ukraine in this moment, but also as Commander-in-Chief, if elected, how would you deal with Vladimir Putin, and would it be any different from what we're seeing from President Biden?
Well, first of all, it's important to remind the former president you're not running against Joe Biden, you're running against me.
Uh-oh.
I believe the reason that Donald Trump says that it would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided, Ukraine stands as an independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we understand the importance of the greatest military alliance the world has ever known, which is NATO, and what we have done to preserve the ability of Zelensky and the Ukrainians to fight for their independence. Otherwise, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv with his eyes on the rest of Europe, starting with Poland. And why don't you tell the 800,000 Polish Americans right here in Pennsylvania how quickly you would give up for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank you. We've heard from both of you.
Come on now.
Afghanistan came up in the last hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and now, please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow much happier than he is right now. But eventually, you know, he's got a thing that other people don't have. He's got nuclear weapons. They don't ever talk about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks about that. And eventually, maybe he'll use them, and maybe he hasn't been that threatening, but he does have that. Something we don't even like to talk about. Nobody likes to talk about it. But just so you understand, they sent her to negotiate peace before this war started. 3 days later, he went in and he started the war because everything they said was weak and stupid. They said the wrong things. That war should have never started. She was the emissary.
I told you, stupid. There you go.
Negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. And the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our country. She goes down as the worst vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You did bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify tonight?
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate, you're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow. And that is another one. When I went to meet with President Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is it has been about standing as America always should, as a leader upholding international rules and norms, as a leader who shows strength, understanding that the alliances we have around the world are dependent on our ability to look out for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strongmen instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is commander-in-chief. And the American people have a right to rely on a president who understands the significance of America's role and responsibility in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we stand up for our principles and not sell them for the benefit of personal flattery.
We've talked about Ukraine and Vladimir Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of this debate. I want to move on to Afghanistan.
Stoltenberg said Trump did the most amazing thing I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen. He's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped off by European nations, both on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made before, if you don't pay, we're not going to protect you.
President
Otherwise,
Trump.
we would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible jobs that he's ever seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn to Afghanistan. It came up in the first hour of the debate, and we witnessed a poignant moment today on Capitol Hill, honoring the soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal from Afghanistan. I do want to ask the Vice President, do you believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan. 4 presidents said they would, and Joe Biden did. And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American diplomacy, where we invite and receive respected world leaders. And this former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not, again, appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response to her saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So if you take a look at that period of time, the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, you know, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems. And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an agreement negotiated by Mike Pompeo. It was a very good agreement. The reason it was good, it was we were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal, and in my opinion, the most embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia attacked Ukraine, because they saw how incompetent she and her boss are.
President Trump, thank you. I want to move on now to race and politics in this country. Mr. President, you recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago when she happened to turn black, and now she wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care. You make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your words, so I'm asking.
I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say that. And then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's, I mean, honestly, I think it's a tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his career, attempted to use race to divide the American people. You know, I do believe that the vast majority of us know that we have so much more in common than what separates us, and we don't want this kind of approach that is just constantly trying to divide us, and especially by race. And let's remember how Donald Trump started. He was land, he owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families. Let's remember, this is the same individual who took out a full-page ad in the New York Times calling for the execution
of
5 young Black and Latino boys who were innocent, the Central Park 5. Took out a full-page ad calling for their execution. This is the same individual who spread birther lies about the first black president of the United States. And I think the American people want better than that, want better than this, want someone who understands, as I do, I travel our country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want a leader who is constantly trying to have Americans point their fingers at each other. I meet with people all the time who tell me, can we please just have discourse about how we're going to invest in the aspirations and the ambitions and the dreams of the American people? Knowing that regardless of people's color or the language their grandmother speaks, we all have the same dreams and aspirations and want a president who invests in those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never been anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger. But they're destroying our economy. They have no idea what a good economy is. Their oil policies, every single policy. And remember this.
Oh, nothing to do with
She is
racism.
Biden. You know, she's trying to get away from Biden. I don't know the gentleman, she says. She is Biden. The
Nothing to do
worst
with
inflation
racism
we've
at
ever
all.
had. A horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad that you
Another
can't get
big
away with that.
setup that he's falling right into.
I want to just respond briefly. Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump. And what I do offer is a new generation of leadership for our country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what we can do instead of always disparaging the American people. I believe in what we can do to strengthen our small businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's talk about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan to give startup businesses $50,000 tax deduction, to pursue their ambitions, their innovation, their ideas, their hard work. I have a plan, $6,000 for young families for the first year of your child's life to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able to pursue what has been fleeting in terms of the American dream by offering a help with down payment of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation, I believe, David, that people really want tonight, as opposed to a conversation that is constantly about belittling and name-calling. Let's turn the page
Vice President
and move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's
Trump,
turn back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy,
She has
please.
a plan to defund the police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
she
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania
And
or
here we
anywhere
go.
else.
Okay.
That's what her
Exhaustive
plan is
democracy.
until just recently.
I just need
Lindsay,
to
go ahead.
respond because
Trump,
the
President
former
Trump.
president has
No,
said
I'm
something
sorry.
twice that I need to
No,
respond to.
I'm sorry. We're
I
gonna
just need to
move on,
respond
Vice
one
President
time
Harris.
to what he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say you're going to keep Obamacare, quote, unless we can do something much better. Last month, you said, quote, we're working on it. So tonight, 9 years after you first started running, do you have a plan, and can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare was lousy health care, always was. It's not very good today. And what I said,
the
that if we
plan,
come up
Donald?
with something, and we are working on
What's
things,
the policy?
we're going to do it, and we're going to replace it. But
It's
remember
been
this,
9 years.
I inherited Obamacare because Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up. They wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, never going to be great, or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in that administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not have a plan?
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking. And then this business about taking everyone's guns away. Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff. As it relates to the Affordable Care Act, understand, just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald Trump was president, 60 times he tried to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. 60 times. I was a senator at the time when I will never forget the early morning hours when it was up for a vote in the United States Senate. And the late, great John McCain, who you have disparaged as being, you don't like him, you said at the time, because he got caught. He was an American hero. The late, great John McCain, I will never forget that night, walked onto the Senate floor and said, no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance companies to deny people with pre-existing conditions. I don't have to tell the people watching tonight, you remember what that was like? Remember when an insurance company could deny if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer survivor, if a grandparent had diabetes? And thankfully, as I've been vice president and we over the last 4 years have strengthened the Affordable Care Act, we have allowed for the first time Medicare to negotiate drug prices on behalf of you, the American people. Donald Trump said he was going to allow Medicare to negotiate drug prices. He never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice president, we have capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president, we will do that for all people, understanding that the value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And the plan has to be to strengthen the Affordable Care Act, not get rid of it.
Vice
Past
President
prologue
Harris, thank
in terms
you.
of where Donald Trump stands on that.
I want to move to an issue that's important for a
She
lot
made
of
a mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to get.
President
People
Trump-
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue that we'd like to get to that's important for a number of Americans, in particular younger voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being jacked up. You ask anybody who has been the victim of what that means in terms of losing their home, having nowhere to go. We know that we can actually deal with this issue. The young people of America care deeply about this issue. And I am proud that as vice president over the last 4 years, we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And I'm also proud to have the endorsement of the United Auto Workers and Sean Fain, who also know that part of building a clean energy economy includes investing in American-made products, American automobiles. It includes growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That didn't happen under Donald Trump. Let me just tell you, they lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going, they're all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is he so loyal to this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million from the mayor of Moscow's wife? Why did she pay him $3.5 million? This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. An historic night, this ABC News presidential debate from Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
They both had telltale sign at certain points, but she has impressed me, and I'm not going to front. I was nervous. And, you know, I talked about it a couple of times backstage, like, I was nervous. She did her prep.
She came ready. She came ready. For sure, she came ready. She killing it. She killing it. Hands down, she's killing it.
But I don't like they stopping her and letting him keep on rambling.
Exactly.
Not fair.
You need to stop both of them.
Yep, it's not fair. They did not. They let him answer every rebuttal he wanted to answer. They let him speak, and they cut her off. It's definitely not fair. But you know what? Even with the unfairness, she's slam dunking this thing.
Yeah, she is. She is. And if anybody
Correct,
come out and
Diva.
say that he really
Correct.
cleaned her tonight, they're gonna be lying, because this woman came. Everybody wanted to know what her
Correct,
policies
Diva.
are. Everything was there. She let you know her policy. She's telling you what she's gonna do. We don't know her policy, what she's standing for. Well, now you know, because she's telling you. So we don't need that other excuse again, because the woman got some good points, and hopefully she can get the stuff passed and get it through. Because that man right there, everything he's saying look like he had a stroke when somebody slapped him in the face with a ham sandwich. Something wrong with him. Something wrong with the man.
was ready to swing.
He's seething because he can't come out like he normally do.
She definitely did, Dee. She did that tonight. Felicia, your thoughts?
Oh my, I'm all over. Okay. I'm not sleepy. I'm wide awake, listening to every word. I think she is doing well. I think he's doing well, showing us who he is, what he don't know, and all the hate that's in him.
Absolutely.
They, those, them, stupid this and stupid that. No, sir, we're asking you the policies. And of all things, to say that the insurrection those were other people. And then these things, he's talking about dogs, and he's trashing the president of the United States. Sir, you are so offensive and so out of bounds, and it's so wrong. But I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it.
So am I.
Diva.
I feel like got on the fact he said.
Hold on, Katrina. Go ahead, Wayne.
You know what? He's actually, I mean, what he's talking, he's not having a debate with anybody that's voting. If they was voting for VP Harris, they're going to vote. His debate, I don't think, is going to get anybody new. on his side, because he's spewing the same old lies that's been debunked all over. He's coming with just a bunch of bull crap he didn't heard. He even said it. Oh, well, that's what I read, about the dogs and the cats and, the Haitians. Well, it was in the paper, he read it. And even that was debunked. Well, he still had an excuse. And I think what it is, the reason why they probably let him kind of like a little go over, because he already said, he didn't drag ABC and George Papadopoulos, what's his name? George, him.
Papadopoulos.
Yeah, Papadopoulos. Yeah, he's already put it out there that ABC wasn't going to be
Stephanopoulos.
Stephanopoulos.
Yeah,
Stephanopoulos. Yeah, George Stephanopoulos. He's already said that ABC wasn't going to be fair to him, so he was trying to set it up that ABC wasn't going to be fair and all that. And he's had way more time than Kamala Harris. But the thing about it, she didn't held her ground. She spoke facts. She spoke well. He's not even worthy to tie her shoes if she had them on.
The thing that he's mad about is he got put in his place by a woman, not just any woman, a black woman that knows her ish. And
The thing with me is he talked about.
Okay, hold on, guys. 'Cause
She's talking like
everybody get a chance to speak.
a college educated political person.
Okay, come on, it's back. Hold on.
Heard tonight two very different visions for our country. One that is focused on the future, and the other that is focused on the past, and an attempt to take us backward. But we're not going back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common than what separates us, and we can chart a new way forward. And a vision of that includes having a plan, understanding the aspirations, the dreams, the hopes, the ambition of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can do that is about giving hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living. I believe in what we can do together that is about sustaining America's standing in the world and ensuring that we have the respect that we so rightly deserve, including respecting our military and ensuring we have the most lethal fighting force in the world. I will be a president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body and not have her government tell her what to do. I'll tell you, I started my career as a prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president. I've only had one client, the people. And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I never asked a victim or a witness, are you a Republican or a Democrat? The only thing I ever asked them, are you okay? And that's the kind of president we need right now. Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by investing right now in you, the American people.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump?
So she just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've had 3.5 years to fix the border. They've had 3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether you like it or not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away to the Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our ABC News presidential debate from here in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
And we are here live on ABC with our post-debate comments.
Well, that was that. That was that. And all I can say is, whoa, what a debate. Julius, what are your final thoughts? Julius, are you there? Katrina?
Julius had fainted. You were by somebody. Girl, that dog and cat thing, I am still still laughing at him. He said the man called him and said his dog was missing. What he need to be worried about is that Kennedy man that's running around eating barbecue dogs. While he talking about these people, the foreign people eating dogs, ask this person that's endorsing him. He's the one eating barbecue dogs. And I like the way she came. I like the policies. He lied as usual. He's sitting up there rambling as usual. He didn't say nothing about what he's going to do for the country. He's talking about what they have not done for the country or what they have destroyed. He brought nothing. He sitting up there looking like he had a stroke. But I digress. We'll see what happened with what the people going to say afterwards. But the woman brought her A game. I got to give it to her. She brought her A game. Whether she become president or not, she brought her A game tonight. That's all I got.
Yeah. Wayne, your thoughts? Wayne, are you there? All right. Julius, are
Wayne
you
locking up his dog.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry.
Okay, go ahead.
Before this debate, I was nervous.
Mm-hmm.
From the get-go, her body language showed hold my beer. Or in my context, hold my wine. She came at him like, oh, you said this. And when he tried to say, no, I didn't, yes, you did. She showed the confidence that she can lead. Way better than her first interview in debate in 2019. And this is the Kamala division that I seen way back, because before she was my first initial choice. From a couple of years ago, she was my first initial choice. Not Biden, not even Pete. She was. She's shown she can lead. And she implied, am I going to be perfect from time to time? No. But that's okay. But she laid out a vision. And I'm going to say it. We're not going back.
Oh, shucks. All right now. Savannah. Yeah, come on now. We're not going back.
So I do agree that she had a stellar performance tonight, and he showed exactly who he is, and it's the same playbook. I do think what she did was she spoke to the people. She spoke about the people and connected with people, and I think that her message was clear. I don't want us to get comfortable or complacent and think that these next 56 days until election are going to be crucial, and they are going to ramp up the rhetoric and the negativity and the division. We need to stay focused, make sure we get to the polls, and also make sure you're doing your homework in your community, in your local elections, because those matter just as much, if not even more. So I am extremely, I enjoyed the debate. This was great. And I look forward to the VP debate in October. That one should be interesting as well. But she did great. I think they prepped her up really, really good. And I just think we have a lot of work to do.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Felicia, your thoughts?
Well, in closing, I didn't hear much
Excuse me,
about.
Diva. Why ain't trying to get back in?
He's not down here, babe. I will see him.
He said he was trying to get back in. I don't know what
Okay,
Wayne doing.
okay, Katrina. 1 second. Felicia, go ahead.
Yeah, I thought we were going to hear a little something about Social Security because that does matter to me, and I thought we were going to get some questions on education, which also matters to me. So we really didn't get those two. I gather it was because the former president kept running over and just wanting to debate certain topics at length. I'm assuming so. Um, Overall, I thought they both did a great job of presenting themselves and what they know and what they don't know, and what they've done and what they haven't done. I believe it was that question on Ukraine and her foreign affairs experience that really brought it home for me. She's been out there, she's been meeting with folks, she's been meeting with leaders, she's been bringing the messages, and she hasn't done it all publicly. But when she responded, she spoke as someone who has been doing this work and been doing it effectively. Um, Congratulations to her for being able to deliver. I hope that folks who maybe have been on the fence, who didn't, some folks kept saying, I think the last 6 weeks, what about her policy here or there? As we move closer to election day, she'll probably tighten it up. I felt that the former president just did too much denying, though, of major things. I was really deeply upset about the insurrection day. Okay, so you don't want to admit that you were the leader and you encourage people to come with certain uh weaponry and what they call that thing, that hanging apparatus out there for your vice president, and all of that violence to do harm. So you don't want to take responsibility for that. But he didn't want to take anything responsibility for anything. He said it was other people. And I'm like, he may truly believe that. And that shows an even greater reason to question the judgment, as she said, when he was going on about those things. That people are really concerned, sir, about your ability to judge and to think clearly. And she did refer to him once before as an unserious man. And I believe he came across as very unserious here tonight. Someone has said in the chat, he's not even going to wait till he gets elected. He's going to just go in before he's even sworn in, and he's going to make changes. Well, to those who want to see those kind of changes from Donald Trump, God be with us. And for those who have to endure whatever their position, I encourage all people to vote and have your vote count, irregardless of who you support. And thank you, Diva. What a great night to be on the YouTube street and to be able to see it in real time and to be commenting and hearing others. I appreciate it.
I appreciate y'all for being here. Thank you, Felicia. Leo, your thoughts?
Wow, like what a night. Like what a night. Several thoughts. I appreciate the way VP Harris punched him in the mouth. She held no punches. I appreciate that. And I still hold on to my prediction that it's all going to be flush, and meaning that those who support the former president, they are going to be all in on this because he didn't lose it all the way. He didn't lose it all the way. The Secret Service didn't have to, pound him. He didn't walk off the stage. He didn't lose it all the way. He pretty much held in for the whole 90 minutes, even though he went off to, the people eating the dogs and the cats. But, I digress. He did do some of that, but he didn't lose it all the way. And so I pretty much felt like he was going to maintain his own order. And she came through with information and facts and policy agendas. And so I really, really saw her as being presidential, that can handle high pressure interactions with folks that may not agree with you. And she held his feet to the fire. She said things to him that reporters and interviewers didn't have the balls to say to him, to his face. And she said it to him. It was you. You were the one who set up the plans for Afghanistan. I love the way she went at him, straight face, no chaser. She's a strong leader. And I don't know whether or not she's going to win the election. As of right now, it still seems flush to me. Those who support the former president, Donald Trump, they are still going to vote for him because to them, he showed up tonight. And for those who would support VP Harris, she also showed up tonight. So I am still on the place of it's flush. Nobody's going to get a bump from this, and no one is going to lose from this. It will all go to who shows up to the polls. But I enjoyed it, and thank you so much, Diva. I really enjoyed it. It was a great night. I really enjoyed it.
I did too. Thank you, Leo. Savannah, did I skip you?
Sorry, Diva, I was fighting the mute button. No, ma'am, I went. But can I just add real quick that I think ABC is a loser here. I think the moderators were weak, and they did a horrible job keeping the rules in check. So I think they're going to get the backlash tomorrow, the negative person.
They are already getting the backlash out. We have to go into tomorrow. I just want to give the last three people opportunity to speak. They're already getting the backlash. I mean, by the time the debate ended, the articles were coming out. The great debate. Trump supporters rage at ABC moderators at the multiple fact checks of ex-pres, 0 for Kamala. They saying it was 3-on-1. So it's already going to be a show tomorrow about this debate, because like I said, there's a ton of articles out already. Literally, when the debate ended, I saw articles everywhere about this debate already. But Tony M., your thoughts?
Yes, Diva, thank you. Republican voters generally tend to get very upset when Donald Trump gets fact-checked. When he gets fact-checked and they can't bounce back from the fact-checking, that is further proof that, in my opinion, Kamala Harris nailed this one. All right, so it makes these voters more angrier and upset the truth, the light has come out. And people can't stand the truth. They want to stay in darkness and take us back to 2016. And I saw your hashtag, Diva, we are not going back, or words to that effect in the chat. And I agree with you. And so I think if we can all take away the good points that Kamala Harris made today, I believe she is ready to be president. Yesterday, I was not convinced of her candidacy, but after this debate, I see plain as day what direction we can go in versus what we should not go back to. And look, no candidate is perfect. We have not really had really good candidates since 2016, really, since after President Obama. So I am willing to step out on a limb and give Vice President Harris a chance. At least give her 4 years to see what she can do and how she can unify the Congress and see how we can move forward. So thank you for allowing me to share in this presidential live with you. Thank you.
Well, thank you guys for being here. I really enjoyed watching this with y'all in real time.
Hold on, Diva. I got bumped out.
Yeah, but you're here. Hold on one second. I really, appreciate y'all for being here in real time. Emmanuel, your thoughts?
Kamala Harris won this debate 100%. I agree with Julius. I too thought she was going to do horrible based on her CNN interview that was a disaster. However, that was not the case. She completely flipped the script. Any body language expert, I'm going to be interested to see what they're going to have to say tomorrow, because any of them will tell you that she dominated that entire room tonight. And it started from the very beginning. If you paid attention, when she walked in, she walked across
Come on now.
You saw that, Diva? Because
Like
he was
the
not going to shake
boss
his hand.
she is.
He was not going to shake his hand. When she walked all the way and approached him and extended her hand and said, Kamala Harris, that's when she won. That's exactly when she won. Trump came across as a ranting lunatic. He was on the defense mode tonight. He was on the defense, trying to attack every single thing. Unfortunately, his attacks were the exact same. The border, the people pouring in, this and that. So it was straight, as in the words of Kamala Harris, from the same old retired playbook. She did great. So I don't know. I mean, like Leo said, we're gonna have to wait up until election night. But she did amazing because she was able to. There are two things that I want to give her props. Number one, she did not go as hard as him as I thought she was. She did not. She did bring up the criminal cases against him, but she did not bring up his impeachment. He did not bring up the hush money trial with the porn star. There are a lot of things that she could have brought up, and she did not. And I think that was important. Number two, and the most important to me, is that she tonight finally differentiated herself from Joe Biden more than once. She said, I am not Joe Biden. And that was very important for people to hear. He too had he had some good liners, like your boss is at the beach and he hates you. So he had some good lines. But I would remind people that Hillary Clinton won all 3 debates and she still lost. So like Leo said, it's going to come down to the polls. And I don't think Donald Trump lost or gained any voters tonight, but I do think that Kamala Harris definitely won a couple.
Yeah, I like that. Thanks, Emmanuel. Wayne, you're up.
You know, it could have been a dog up there. I would vote for a dog before I would vote for a dictator. Okay. Not only that, you have to realize that a lot of Trump supporters, the only thing on their political diet is Truth Social and Fox. Okay. I doubt if they watch the vice president's campaign. Because he's already told, they already believe everything Trump said. So I think this would have opened it up to like his people that wouldn't have normally
watch Kamala Harris. So I think it's a possibility that, because the way she spoke presidential. She looked at this fool in his eyes. Every time she spoke, she looked right over at him. He just stayed in the camera. But when she spoke, she looked at him. And it took everything for them demons not to come out. He would have loved for her if she had brought something up personal, like, Emmanuel was saying, like, his affairs and stuff like that, so that demon could just come out. Because that's what he's used to. That's the kind of debate he wanted. He wanted a debate like he had with Biden. And it didn't happen. He saw how low IQ she had. He couldn't come back. And I was too through when they asked him about the Affordable Care Act. He said he had a concept. What the hell is a concept? He had nothing. All he did was spew the same old lies and regurgitated stuff that either Fox put on him, put out there. All these things. So to me, I thought he did very poorly. He wasn't presidential. Bunch of the stuff he said, it's already been fact checked. It wasn't true. They even tried to fact check him on the animals up in Springfield, Ohio. Even after the Springfield police, all of them said that there no animals missing. But he was told that, so he spewed it out. He didn't fact check it. Long as it was something negative that they could say and he could bring, that's all he did. Didn't check nothing. He just came right out and said they eating the animals. Nothing he said was really factual. He just said it, that's all. And look, I'm not shocked. I just kind of thought that he was going to come out very trashy and vulgar to come at her because that's what he's used to. But she stood her ground. She everything. Anything you want to know about it, she covered everything. This woman is presidential, and I think she can take us into 2025, 6, and 7.
Oh, shoot.
I'm done.
You said 25, 26, and 27. Come on now. E, you're up.
Well, hello. I can only tell you what I saw. Kamala ate his monkey ass right on up. She revealed Donald John to be unhinged, uneducated, and unfit for office. And it just really highlights for me all of the people who support him. They're really uneducated as well. When she said that, I would like to do something unordinary and invite you to one of Trump's rallies so you can see that the people get bored and start leaving early in the middle of it. She ate his ass right on up. Kamala also nailed him to the cross when she mentioned his pending lawsuits and crimes for SA and election interference. And she did mention his record as it related to not renting to Black people and the Central Park 5. I felt those were good things to mention. And his retort to that was, well, she has to go back 50 and 40 years. I think that people are forgetting that when Trump came into office in 2016, the hate crimes, the rate and the statistics of those doubled and almost tripled. So when he came into office, the amount of hate and violence that stemmed from that doubled. So really, he's a major factor in that. And when he tried to say that our crime numbers are up, I looked at the numbers. It's not up like he thinks it is, but we do have some opportunities there. I also want to highlight every time she nailed his back to the wall, he brought up the people from the alleged insane asylums and the prisons who he says are crawling over the border. And that was his biggest retort. He must have mentioned it 3 or 4 times. And when he started talking about these people from South America and what have you, all I could think about was Melania and her parents. How the hell did they get over here and stay so? he has to be careful what he says because he says he wants to put America first again, and whoop-de-woo, his wife is not even American. Yes, he brought her over here, but she's from somewhere else. And also, I almost threw my popcorn bowl at the screen when his final words were, her and Joe have been here for 4 years, and she so eloquently reminded him a few times, I'm not Joe Biden. But, I almost threw my popcorn bowl when she said to him, this is about me and you, basically. And he said, you have 4 years to do it, and you haven't done it. And her retort to him was about the Obamacare. You've been talking about that since before you got elected the first time, and you said you were going to do something about that, and you didn't. You packed the Supreme Court. You got Roe v. Wade overturned, and his biggest thing retort to that was everybody wanted it. I don't remember everybody wanting that. I never remember people saying, let's get this kicked back to the states. It's blasphemy. And that's not what women wanted. And I was so happy that the moderator chin checked him in real time, that people are not having these intended miscarriages after the baby is delivered. It's impossible. That's not an A word. It's impossible. He's so extreme. And when he started talking about the pets, again, he picks these isolated and rare incidents and make it seem like it's the norm. And then when somebody does it to him, he says, oh no, you have to go back 50 and 40 years. No, this person is too old to be president. He is senile. He is dishonest. He has no cognizance of where he is and how to remain calm. And I was so pleased when Kamala said that he was exchanging love notes with Kim Jong-un. I said, go ahead and get him, Kamala. She cooked them.
Wow. Well, folks, I got a little bit of breaking news.
What is it?
So the vice president has put out a statement. She can't wait. She's looking forward to another debate with the former president of the United States.
Good.
Team are ready to go.
Good.
And the other huge breaking news is Taylor Swift has posted her support for Kamala Harris. So
I've been waiting on that.
She delivered it tonight. So I guess Donnie won't be calling out and playing her songs no more. But yeah, so great night, everybody. I'm looking forward to the second one. The vice president candidate. He's up there and he's talking about more pets and stuff. And they got all, they are so, oh my goodness. So he's not relenting. He's not coming off of that, even though they're doing a fact check on everything. And they still want to follow that story. So we will see. We will see. And before I go off to bed, I loved the way the vice president said, 81 million people fired you, sir. I loved it. I was like, girl, bring it.
So listen, I'm going to close out, y'all. It's late. I appreciate y'all being here with me. We did do our own little poll, and 90% of y'all said that y'all felt 109 people voted. So thank you, y'all, for doing the poll. 90% said Kamala, she won this thing, and 9% said Trump. Listen, great debate. I do feel like they let Trump speak more. But like we said, most people were going to feel that Trump, did not get a fair shake. And already, as I showed y'all, articles are coming out there claiming it was 3 against 1. But anywho, though, is the fact that when she wanted to respond to him, they did not let her, and they did not do a good job of muting the mics. They're full of crap. So they broke their own rules. But guys, I truly appreciate y'all for being here. I love sharing this historical moment with y'all. If you didn't hit the like button on the way in, hit it on the way out. Good night and goodbye, everybody.
Do not cheat the Diva. Always strike down.
Choo choo.
Thank you.